Let's start learning to fly in arcade mode, the most popular mode in War Thunder. Some hardcore pilots prefer realistic mode, but we'll talk about it in our future videos. One of the nice things about the arcade mode is its simplified physics model. Of course, it won't enable you to pull off some of the more impressive piloting stunts, but it will give you a chance to learn the basic techniques for controlling the plane and have fun flying. It also prevents your plane from falling apart if you go too fast, or if you put it under some extreme G-forces. In addition to the pilot-friendly physics, your weapons reload automatically in the arcade mode, and they do it in mid-air. In the arcade mode, all planes have the WEP, or the War Emergency Power, the ability that will boost your engine's performance for a brief period of time. Although in the realistic or the simulator mode, this ability is available only to certain aircraft. The arcade interface contains handy tips, for example, an aim assist marker. This is a special reticule that helps you adjust for the speed of your target. Use it to get a sense of how to lead your target on your own when you're going to be flying in other game modes. One last thing about arcade mode, if you get shot down, it isn't game over. Here's how it works. There are a few slots in the lower panel of your hangar. These are your crews. Each slot is one crew. Your crew includes pilots, gunners, and ground service personnel, as well as commanders, loaders, radio operators, and drivers for ground vehicles such as tanks. As you fight battles, your crew gains experience, and the soldiers under your command hone their skills. You can assign one or several of your combat vehicles to each crew. So before you click on the To Battle button, make sure you've chosen Air Force mode and have assigned your crews with planes rather than tanks. The number of crews you've assigned planes to is the number of times you can respawn during a battle. If you get shot down, hop in the next plane and take off. Needless to say, tanks can't fly. There are a lot of aircraft classes in the game, but they can be roughly divided into three main groups: fighters, attack aircraft, and bombers. A separate tutorial is available for each type of aircraft in the game. These tutorials are quick missions designed to give you basic piloting skills and help you get a better sense of the combat roles of each class. The tutorials are mandatory, but the game gives you a reward of silver lions, the game's currency, and sometimes even a few premium golden eagles for each one. You can tell which class your plane belongs to by mousing over it. The plane's class is listed right under its name. The P-63 King Cobra, for example, is a fighter, and the B-25 is a bomber. The combat roles for each class are pretty obvious. Fighters primarily hunt for other enemy planes, ground attackers destroy enemy tanks and anti-air defenses, while bombers take out pillboxes and bases. Of course, no one is going to stop you from strafing with your fighter's machine guns or chasing after a ground attacker in a bomber, but let's put it this way, you will not be as useful to your teammates if you do these things, so please don't. At the beginning of the game, new players only have access to a few light biplanes. We'll use a somewhat more leveled up account that already has planes of every class for a demonstration. Alright, let's fight. The map and mission objectives are displayed on the loading screen. Blue units are allies, red ones are enemies. The airplane icons show aircraft spawn points. Tanks and the lines coming out of them show the tank spawns and the direction in which they will attack enemy fortifications. We're almost ready for battle. Here's the lineup of available planes, as well as settings for the battle, how much fuel to take, what kinds of ammo to load your weapons with, weapon specs, etc. Let's leave everything at the default settings for now. You don't need too much fuel. Planes rarely live long enough in a fight to actually run out of gas, and you can fly faster and will be less likely to catch on fire with less fuel on board. Okay, we're in the air. Now press the M button on your keyboard to open the map. Here, you can see Allied aircraft and ground forces of both teams. A more compact Raider map is always displayed in the top right corner of the screen. In the bottom left corner is a counter showing the number of remaining key ground targets the teams have to destroy. Player victories are displayed in the lower right corner, and slightly above that you will see messages indicating what damage you deal to enemy vehicles. And finally, in the upper left corner is your thrust, speed, and elevation. You can go to the interface settings menu at any time and add any additional gauges. For example, if engine temperature meter isn't necessary in arcade mode, the remaining ammo counter will definitely come in handy. That's right, you don't have unlimited ammo. Even though in arcade mode your weapons reload in mid-air, it still takes about 15 to 60 seconds depending on the gun caliber, and every reload usually happens at the worst possible time. Moreover, your guns can overheat and jam, and it takes time to repair them. Our advice is to fire in short and accurate bursts. The mission objective is usually tied to ground units. Sometimes you will have to destroy an airfield, sometimes you will be hunting for enemy tanks and busting fortifications. The current ratio of units is displayed at the top of the screen. The blue bar is your progress towards victory, the red one is the enemy's. As targets are destroyed, both bars go down, and the team whose bar hits the 0 first loses. You can see the exact number of pilots alive by hitting the tab key. Targets will also flash on the minimap. In theory, it is possible to win by simply shooting down all of the enemy's aircraft, but each pilot has an average of 4 respawns, and there are about 16 pilots in each team. In other words, you'd need to shoot down 64 planes before they take down your ground units. So if you want to win, go for the enemy's ground forces first. Okay, we have almost reached the enemy. Let's select the target and lock onto it with the X key, or by clicking the middle mouse button. The distance at which you can damage an enemy plane is about 1.5 kilometers. But your chances of actually hitting the enemy from that far away are pretty slim. The aim assist marker for the locked-on target appears at about 800 meters. That's about when it makes sense to actually open fire. We suggest leading your guns by just a little bit more than what the marker indicates. We'll talk about why this is, as well as some other tips for accurate shooting in another video. But for now, just take our word for it and keep it in mind. Wow, they're shooting at us! Who? Hold down the C key to free look with your mouse and check your sights. You've got an enemy fighter on your tail. Evasive maneuvers. We'll get into defensive maneuvers in another video, but for now, just run away from the attacker so this unknown enemy doesn't ruin our tutorial. The G-force indicator is flashing, the screen is getting darker, that's blood rushing from the pilot's head. In arcade mode, that's not a real threat, but in realistic mode, pressures of more than 9G are deadly for most pilots, and your plane can break apart at that speed, literally, to pieces. Our advice is to start learning to fly properly right away. That way, if you decide you want to try realistic mode, you'll feel more confident later. You can zoom in for better aim. It is mapped to Z key by default, but be careful, your situational awareness suffers in the aiming mode greatly. For example, there's a chance you might not notice a fighter on your tail. Oh no! We accidentally crashed into an ally while aiming. Even in arcade mode, you can still damage your allies just as easily as you can damage your enemies. If you accidentally shoot down an ally, you'll have to pay a hefty fine with in-game currency. We got shot down. Oh well, we'll just use another plane. Let's fly a bomber this time. All bombers are loaded with, you guessed it, bombs, but this one is also armed with 20mm autocannons. But serious targets such as pillboxes and heavy tanks can be taken down with mere cannons, so you'll have to use bombs. This is a third topic we'll be talking about in the near future, making smart use of your plane's ordnance. But for now, we'll just say that a team that gets carried away with taking down air targets usually loses. The players that win are the ones who don't get distracted by their first chance at a dogfight and methodically take out ground targets. Generally speaking, dogfights at an altitudes of more than 4 kilometers are very rare. Sometimes you'll encounter fighters up there who are getting ready for a boom and zoom, or you'll see some strategic bombers that are flying towards the enemy base. The gameplay there is measured and unhurried. The vast majority of players stick close to the ground. That's the Air Force arcade mode in War Thunder. It is friendly and forgiving to new players and will gradually teach you how to conduct air battles properly. In other words, arcade mode is fast, fun, and hassle-free. See you in the skies!